Hey everyone. So for this week's Civic and Citizenship Literacy Project, I have picked the book called Grace Goes to Washington. If you want to go take a look at the book itself, I have added the read aloud YouTube link to my discussion post as well. It's a really cute book, and I think a lot of you guys would enjoy it, so go give that a look if you want to. Um, but the summary of Grace Goes to Washington is when Grace learns about the three branches of the United States government, she and the rest of the student council put the lesson into practice as they debate how to spend the money from a school fundraiser. Should they buy new sports equipment, books for the library, instruments for the music room? The arguments continue as they travel to Washington, D.C. for a field trip. Exploring government buildings and national monuments, Grace feels closer than ever to her dream of becoming president someday. But she and her classmates have a lot to learn about what it means to serve the needs of people, especially when the people want such different things. So, for this book, I would obviously introduce it as a read aloud. And before it, I would kind of pose some beginning questions to them, such as like, what does it mean to be a good leader? What does it mean to be a good team member? I would ask them if they've ever had experience working in a team, if they've ever had experience being a leader, just to kind of get these wheels turning in their head a little bit before we read the book. After I read the book, I would actually make this into a small group lesson, and I would mirror what was going on in the book. So I would split up my kiddos into groups of 4 or 5, depending on how many students are in the class, and I would give them the same problem that was posed in the book. So each group is getting money from the school, from a school fundraiser, and just like Grace and the kids in the book, they have to work together to decide how they're going to spend that money for the school. And they're going to take into consideration that it's not just what they want as a group, but they also have to think about the school as a whole. So each group would then get together and discuss and decide on what they think is the best option to spend their money and why. We would then come back together as a class, and each group would get the opportunity to share to the class what they came up with and why. Questions would be open if any of the other students had them for the group that is presenting, and we could kind of turn that into a classroom discussion as well. And then at the end, when all groups have presented, I would then pose them some questions to round out this lesson. So I would ask them, did any of you have emotional responses to what the group decided? Did that decision make you happy, mad, upset, etc.? How did the members of your group rely on each other? Were you all responsible team members? Did any of their groups step up as a leader? What qualities make a good leader? How do you know if you're working in an effective group? And then we would obviously have time to discuss every one of those questions after I had posed them. And then I would just kind of discuss that we worked in groups to solve or to come up with what we thought was best for the population of our school. And that's what happens in our government as well. So kind of making that connection between what we did in class to the book and then to what happens on that bigger level of our actual government. And then the Colorado State Standard that I would use for this book and lesson is the first grade state standard and 4 for civics. And it's the first standard, which is effective groups have responsible leaders and team members. And then the evidence outcomes of those are describe the characteristics of a responsible leader, identify the attributes of a responsible team member, and demonstrate the ability to be both a leader and a team member. And I think this book and the lesson / activity that is going along with it really fits this standard and evidence outcome well. One, at the end, we're posing all these questions, so they're going to hopefully be able to answer what characteristics make a responsible leader, attributes to be a effective team member, and then by working in groups, they're going to be demonstrating that ability to be a leader and a team member. So I also would be walking around as this was going on to kind of observe what was going on. So overall, I think that this lesson and book really fits this first grade standard for civics. I also think it's a great and interactive activity to get the whole class involved in something. It's fun, it's different, and it never hurts to have the kids work in groups and work together, because I think they can really learn from each other that way. But that is all I have for you guys, so thank you for watching and enjoy!